Good morning, everybody. Today's class is about the introduction to nervous system, wherein we'll be learning about functional anatomy and neurotransmitters. As you all know, the nervous system is a driver which controls and maintenance of the homeostasis. The two drivers of the body are nervous system and endocrine system. They both are called as, when any function is regulated, it's called neuroendocrine control. For example, if you want to solve a mathematical problem or you want to respond to a painful stimulus, when you feel hungry or you feel satisfied, all these are being regulated and controlled at the nervous system level. Different regions of the nervous system react under varying conditions to maintain an optimal response and finally the homeostasis. As you all know, the neurons are the structural and functional unit of nervous system. They are called the nerve fibers. A group of neurons traveling together in the peripheral nerve system form the nerve. In the central nervous system, if the group of neurons are traveling, it's called as a pathway or a tract, a bundle of nerves. The neurons perform different functions. The group of cell bodies of neurons in the peripheral nervous system are called as ganglia, whereas that in the central nervous system are called as nuclei. The neurons communicate with one another through synapse, which is a functional contiguity, but there is no anatomical connection, wherein the neurotransmitters or the chemical mediators are released and the information passes through one neuron to another through the several synapses. It's important to understand the basic embryology of the brain before we deal into the whole nervous system. So, as you all know, the brain weighs around 1.5 kgs. All the structures located within the hardy are located within hard bony skull. It can be divided into forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain, or the prosencephalon, the mesencephalon, the rhombencephalon. The prosencephalon is also divided into telencephalon and diencephalon. It is connected by four cavities, and these are called the cerebral ventricles that contain the cerebrospinal fluid, which is important for nutrition and also excretion, and maintains the brain in a floating state because of the buoyancy. Thereby, your brain is protected. So, we need to know the embryology or the development. The earliest part, the brain developed around 3 weeks in the embryo stage, and the first formation is the neuronal plate, which is the ectoderm along the dorsal midline axis. It's a single layer of cells. This neural plate gets folded to form neural groove with neural floats on either side. Both the ends of the neural tube tend to open up, forming anterior and posterior neural pores. The neural tube lumen, which is the neural canal, becomes the ventricles of the brain and central canal. The neural tube formed in the 4th week of pregnancy differentiates into the CNS. So we are stressing that it is the neural tube which forms the CNS. There are numerous new developmental defects which result in congenital malformation. The anterior part of the neural tube forms the brain and the posterior part forms the spinal cord. So the neural tube is again divided into ventral and dorsal area. The ventral is also called the basal plate, which perform the efferent functions, that is the functions which come from the brain, which are motor or structures, and the alar function, which is the dorsal area, which carry out afferent and associative functions. So we need to know that the adult neurons are developed during early embryonic life. The glial cells or the supporting cells are formed later. The number of neurons formed during embryonic life is more than the number in the adult life. Thereby, a programmed cell death, which is apoptosis, takes place. So, what are these parts, the prosencephalon, the mesencephalon and telencephalon? What structures do they form? You know that the forebrain, also called as the prosencephalon, is divided into telencephalon and diencephalon. The telencephalon gives rise to cerebral hemisphere, basal ganglia, hippocampus, amygdala and lateral ventricle. So it consists of two cerebral hemispheres connected by each other by a bundle of fibers called as corpus callosum. The cortex of each hemisphere is divided into four lobes, wherein the frontal lobe is concerned with the motor functions along with the intelligence. The parietal lobe is controlling the sensory functions, which is the stereognosis or the many other functions. And the occipital lobe is concerned with vision, whereas the temporal lobe is concerned with audition or hearing. The 3 mm grey matter which surrounds the outer part of the cerebral cortex is highly folded into sulci and gyri in the form of convolutions. The nuclei, which is the collection of grey matter which are embedded deep into the cerebral hemispheres, can be the basal ganglia, the thalamus, hypothalamus and so on. So the subcortical nuclei in telencephalon is the basal ganglia, which helps in planning and programming of movements. What is it? Planning and programming of movements. The diencephalon, which becomes into the thalamus, hypothalamus, metathalamus and subthalamus, can be divided into the upper third, which is the thalamus, which is a sensory relay station. Most of the sensory fibers ascend towards the cortex before they get relayed in the thalamus. And hypothalamus, which is the lower third, performs enormous functions. It controls anterior pituitary, posterior pituitary, sleep in the form of circadian rhythm, the satiety center, the water balance. So it has enormous functions which connects with the pituitary gland. And this is the brain with the lobes, the frontal lobe in front of the central circus. It has the precentral and the postcentral. The postcentral is your sensory area, which has somatosensory area 1 and 2, whereas the precentral has the motor area 4, 6 and 8. These are all based on the histological classifications of Brodmann. Whenever we number, even if you had seen in vision and hearing, we were talking about 41 and 21. All these are based on histological classifications. So the midbrain, also called as the mesencephalon, comprises tectum, tegmentum, cerebral aqueduct and cerebral peduncle. So we have this divided, the midbrain divided by the aqueduct of Sylvius, the duct which connects the third ventricle in the midbrain with the fourth ventricle in the pons and medulla. The ventral part of the midbrain is called the cerebral peduncle. It comprises the tegmentum, substantia nigra, which is part of the basal ganglia, and it is this substantia nigra where, if the nigrostriatal pathway or the dopaminergic pathway of the substantia nigra is affected, it results in Parkinson's disease, and base is peduncular. The dorsal part called as the tegmentum, which constitutes the superior and inferior colliculi, are concerned with what is called as auditory reflexes. This is what the superior and inferior colliculus with the thalamus and the hypothalamus, with the third and the fourth ventricle, the diagram showing us the midbrain. The hindbrain, which is the pons, medulla oblongata and cerebellum. That is, the hindbrain, also called as the rhombencephalon, is divided into metencephalon and myelencephalon. Metencephalon is the cerebellum and the upper part of the fourth ventricle, whereas the myelencephalon forms the lower part of the fourth ventricle and medulla vein. The midbrain, pons, and medulla together are called as the brainstem. If a person is in coma, we always check for the brainstem reflexes. Why? It's because the pons and the medulla are mainly concerned with the cardiorespiratory center and they control the whole respiration and cardiovascular parameters. So, whenever we have to say the person is dead, it has to be brain dead. And one important thing is the cranial nerve nuclei are situated in the brain stem, wherein the nucleus are located in the third, for example, the third and fourth cranial nerve is located in the midbrain. The fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth cranial nerves are located in the pontine area, whereas in the medulla, the remaining 9 to 11 cranial nerves nuclei are located. So we need to understand that the pons, medulla, and midbrain constitute the cerebellum, which is also called as the cerebellum, which is also called as the little brain, is located posterior and inferior to the cerebrum, and it has two cerebellar hemispheres. It is important center for coordinating movements and controlling posture and equilibrium. It receives information from muscles, joints, eyes through spinocerebellar tracts, different vestibulocerebellar tracts, and they control the movements. It not only performs motor function but is also involved in the process of learning. Cerebellum controls the rate, range, direction, force, velocity of a movement. It is acting as a comparator which compares the peripheral and the central signals. For example, you keep on walking, suddenly when there is a snake which appears, you tend to change the direction and the range of movement. This is the main reason it acts as a comparator. So what is that we need to know? We will be dealing about the spinal cord in detail later. Spinal cord is an extension of medulla oblongata and is located in the vertebral column. Here, unlike the cerebral cortex where the outer is the grey matter, in spinal cord the outer is the white matter, which are the myelin sheaths, the myelinated neurons, whereas the grey matter which is formed by the cell bodies. The central canal is the continuation of cerebral ventricles pass through the spinal cord. We'll know the detailed thing about spinal cord when we deal in spinal cord. The spinal cord gives out segmental nerves, so we'll be dealing that. The most important neuronal defects or neural tube defects are the anencephaly, which is a neural tube defect in which the cerebral hemispheres are absent. The remaining part of the brain is malformed. The skull and the brain coverings are severely malformed. The affected fetus are often aborted. Spina bifida is a condition affecting spinal vertebral bodies. The problem usually lies in the closure of vertebral arch. The condition affects the fifth lumbar and first sacral vertebrae. It can be two types, spina bifida occulta and spina bifida cystica. Herniation of spinal cord through this defect is called as myelomeningocele. So this was just generally a development where third week the embryo was formed with different developmental changes and their functions. But as a physiologist, we need to know that unless until you know the basic neurophysiology along the information processed through the tracts, which are the ascending and descending tracts, where the systemic neurophysiology which deals with the cerebrum, cerebellum, basal ganglia, thalamus, hypothalamus, all these are integrated with different levels. There can be a higher integration or a spinal integration. So we need to encompass this knowledge in knowing the functions of the brain or the central nervous system. So the nervous system, as you all know, can perceive the five senses: touch, temperature, pressure, vibration, different sensation, and also controls the higher functions like memory and learning, and the movements, the motor and. So the three main functions are the sensory function, the integrative function, and motor function. The sensory receptors respond to different stimuli from within and outside the body, and the information is carried through the sensory neuron to the higher level. The receptors are acting as the transducer, wherein many touch can be the Merkel's and the Mischner's. The pressure receptors is the Pacini and corpuscle. The temperature is Krause and Krobe, and the pain is mainly concerned with naked nerve endings. They are integrated in the nervous system, wherein the nervous system integrates sensory information by analyzing it and making appropriate response in the effector organ. The correlation and integration of nervous system occur in the brain and spinal cord. Interneurons have an important role in integration of this sensory information. As you all know, the cerebral cortex, which we are talking about, is a source of intelligence and thoughts and emotions. It can store the sensory information received during past experience, and appropriate modifications of the common apparent pathways made possible. The motor functions involve response to the sensory information. Usually the effectors are the muscle and the gland. The nervous signals along with the endocrine controls the overall functions of the body. The sensory information is carried information from peripheral nervous system to central nervous system. The signals travels through both cranial and spinal nerves. If it is carried, there are many tracts which carry. The touch is carried by ventral spinothalamic tract. The pain and temperature is carried by lateral spinothalamic tract, wherein it detects the changes internally, externally. By analyzing the information, it's processed and carried to the nervous system. The integrative function is predominantly carried out by interneurons, which are short axons in the CNS. They contact nearby neurons in brain and spinal cord and ganglion. Most neurons are interneurons. They have a very important role in integration of sensory information. So the integrative functions are the processing of information from afferent neurons by analyzing, storing and deciding the appropriate response to the effector. So the effector is motor. So always the ascending is sensory, whereas the efferent, which is motor, is descending. They carry information from the CNS to the peripheral nervous system. They respond to interneuron decisions, and they process and send the information through command neurons. The cells responding are effectors, which can be either contraction of the muscle or secretion in the gland. So we need to understand this. So it is mainly the sensory, the integrative and the motor. Nerve system also has sympathetic and parasympathetic, which we'll be dealing with. So how is it organized? The central nervous system comprises of brain and spinal cord. You all know that the inputs reach the brain through the sensory receptors via the spinal cord. So it's mostly whereas the peripheral nervous system comprises of the 31 pair of cranial nerves, which are the 12 cranial nerves, the 31 pairs of spinal nerves, the spinal branches, the segmental branches, also called the ganglia on the sensory receptors. So the main function of the central nervous system is it integrates and correlates incoming sensory information through the ascending tracts. It's a source of thoughts, emotion and memories. Most motor signals originate in the CNS through command neurons. Whereas the peripheral nervous system, which comprises of the somatic nervous system, which are motor portion is, and it is usually it is always under the voluntary control, whereas the autonomic nervous system, which is the motor portion and the involuntary control, are divided into sympathetic and parasympathetic. The sympathetic is thoracolumbar, whereas the parasympathetic is craniocervical, craniosacral. So the sympathetic division of the nervous system prepares the body to overcome emergency situation, whereas the parasympathetic division of the autonomic nervous system is concerned with conservation and restoration of energy. So the enteric nervous system has both the mesenteric and Meesner's plexus, which deal with the motor and secretory functions of the GIT. Somatic nervous system, where the sensory input reaches the brain wire from the receptors, where the receptors are called as the transducer, which convert mechanical energy into electrical energy, and the motor output is through the voluntary control. It carries impulses from the central nervous system to skeletal muscles only, whereas the autonomic nervous system, where the innervation is diffuse in the GIT. The sensory input is from the autonomic receptors. Motor output is to the smooth muscle, cardiac muscle and glands. It is involuntarily controlled. It carries impulses to the sympathetic division, which controls the fight and flight response, and the parasympathetic, which is the anabolic one, which concerned with the conservation and restoration of energy. The sensory input from plexus of the GIT is carried out by enteric nervous system, whereas the motor output to plexus or GIT, which innervates the smooth muscle, glands and endocrine cells of GIT. It is also involuntary. So we will be dealing about a very important component which carry the information through the synapse, and you all know that when we talk about physiology, the basic neurophysiology is synapse, receptor and reflexes. All these processes are carried to central nervous system through ascending and descending tracts. So you will be dealing about ascending tracts. As I forgot to tell you, the cerebral cortex main output is through the pyramidal cells, which are the corticospinal tract, which controls fine skill movements like writing, painting, buttoning yourself. All these are fine skilled movements, whereas all this information has to be processed through the chemical mediator called as neurotransmitters. The substance must be present within the presynaptic neuron. The substance must be released in response to presynaptic depolarization, and the release must be calcium dependent. Specific receptors for the substance must be present on the postsynaptic cell. These are the main criteria for neurotransmitter. How do you classify them? See, most of the time we can study these neurotransmitters by immunohistochemistry. So there are different types. The main acetylcholine. This was discovered by Otto Levy, a German pharmacologist, who was awarded Nobel Prize for introducing the concept of chemical neurotransmitter. He had demonstrated the release of neurotransmitter from vagus by its stimulation. He called the chemical as vagostev, which was later identified as acetylcholine. Acetylcholine, you all know that it has various functions. It is present in the following regions like neuromuscular junction, postganglionic parasympathetic junction, postganglionic sympathetic, and it plays a very important role. It can have two types of receptors, the muscarinic and nicotinic receptors. Dopamine is present in the substantia nigra. Epinephrine or epinephrine are present in the sympathetic, postganglionic and preganglionic neurons. Serotonin, which is important, plays a role in It is present in the cerebellum spinal cord. The functions are it facilitates platelet aggregation, promotes smooth muscle contractions, increases food intake, and enhances secretion and peristalsis. The excitatory amino acids we need to know is in our brain in an excitatory drive or inhibitory drive. We are always in a state of inhibitory drive. If we all were in an excitatory drive, we would have developed tremors and so on. So the excitatory amino acids are the glutamate, which has an important excitatory neurotransmitter in the brain and spinal cord. It is synthesized from alpha ketoglutarate. It is an inotropic and metabotropic receptors. Glutamate acts on inotropic and metabotropic receptors present in the central nervous system. The important inotropic receptors are AMPA and NMDA. AMPA is amino 3 hydroxy 5 methyl 4-propionate receptors. NMDA is N-methyl D-aspartate receptors. Activation of NMDA receptor causes excessive influx of calcium ions. NMDA receptors are present in hippocampus. They help in long-term potentiation, hence they are involved in learning and memory. Metabotropic glutamate receptors present in hippocampus and cerebellum are involved in synaptic plasticity. Glutamate is involved is a neurotransmitter cleared from the extracellular fluid. Anoxia resulting in ischemia increases the level of glutamate. In stroke, there is lack of blood supply to the selected area of the brain. The neurons exposed to severe ischemia are destroyed, and this increased sodium concentration causes astrocytes with altered sodium concentration fails to remove the glutamate. Excessive accumulation of glutamate produces excitotoxic damage to the cells, which is an excitatory amino. The aspartate is also important excitatory. The inhibitory, among which the GABA is the predominant, it influences the pre and postsynaptic terminals in the brain. It is formed by decarboxylation of glutamate. It has GABA A, B, C and 3 receptors, the inotropic receptors and metabotropic receptors. This long-term level stimulation of GABA receptor facilitated by GABA reduces the noise produced by the discharge of neurons to improve signal to noise ratio. So we have different polypeptides which can have, I forgot to tell you, the epinephrine and norepinephrine as already discussed, which acts on alpha and beta receptors. The different polypeptides are substance P, vasopressin, oxytocin, all this we have discussed. And there is an important neurotransmitter called as anandamide, which is a cannabinoid, acts on anandamide function as a neurotransmitter. They are synthesized in response to calcium influx. Cannabinoids act through CB1 receptors. They reduce intracellular CMP in pain pathway, cerebellum, hippocampus. Cannabinoids are acting as retrograde messengers at the synapse to limit further release of neurotransmitters. They produce as they are cannabinoids, they produce a sense of well-being. As we discussed, the important thing about neurotropins also. So the functional domains are somatic and visceral, where we discussed the somatic comprises of the skin, whereas the visceral and autonomic are the smooth and the cardiac muscle along with the glands. So these are the potential. How do you assess if a diabetes patient comes with peripheral neuropathy? We do sensory and motor conductions. If there is a brain damage, we do MRI and functional MRI to study the chemistry. Or if there is so we do vascular studies If there is a cavernous venous thrombosis, we advise for vasculature of the brain, and cerebrovascular imaging is done. So different studies, and finally we do cross-sectional studies or stimulate with stereotaxic instruments. So how do we go about in the next 25 to 30 hours of central nervous system? We need to know what is synapse and the properties, which can be one-way conduction, synaptic plasticity, which deals with learning and memory, or it has for a child who walks as he is born and he walks by 1 year is because of myelination and different dendrites, and the receptor which acts as a transducer, and reflex is the main integrative function, the basic unit of integrated neural activity is the reflex arc. The reflex arc consists of sense organ and receptor, the afferent neuron, one or more synapses in the central integrating station, the efferent neuron and efferent effector organ. You all must be knowing that a reflex is an automatic response to a stimulus. The primary function of the nervous system is to receive millions of sensory information, and these are also received from the receptors. So it acts as a transducer. And the different levels of integration, the spinal cord level, the lower brain level and the higher brain level, all these are, for example, reflex is understood by understanding the concept of monosynaptic reflex and polysynaptic. Polysynaptic is when you touch a hot object, you tend to withdraw the right hand, and the left leg is crossed, stretched. So this is called as polysynaptic or withdrawal response. Monosynaptic is when you tend to stroke the tendons, the deep tendons of the body, which can be a biceps, triceps or the knee jerk, which will have a response, and that is your reflex action. So this is dealt with. Monosynaptic is based on the stretch reflex, which happens at the spinal cord level. The spinal reflexes are simple spinal reflexes like stretch reflex, withdrawal reflex, micturition and defecation reflex. Then we have the information to be processed and carried by ascending tracts and descending. This ascending is your ventral, spinothalamic, spinocerebellar, spinotectal. There are different carry information from the spinal cord to the brain, and the motor is the corticospinal and corticobulbar. So the spinal cord deals with the reflexes and integration at the spinal cord. Brainstem we discussed, limbic lobe is behavior, and the different lesions. If there is hemiplegia, the lesion is in the internal capsule. So the stroke, also called as apoplexy. The different things will be dealing. If CSF is obstructed, it is hydrocephalus. So you need to know the integration at 3 levels. Spinal cord, what happens? The lower brain levels are the medulla, pons and midbrain, thalamus, hypothalamus, cerebellum and basal ganglia. The medulla pons control the subconscious function of the body like maintenance of blood pressure and respiration. Posture and equilibrium are controlled by cerebellum, reticular formation, midbrain and pons. Higher brain centers are the cerebral cortex, which controls voluntary activities. It is essential for thought processes and is the storage of memory in the form of memory traces. Cerebral functions in the associated area with lower centers. I would like to stress here that if we keep on telling you read once or twice, it is because of the reverberating circuits which enhances the memory. So with this, we have come to the end of the introduction. From next class, we will be dealing the proper synapse. So please read.